Welcome to our ReSourceYYC Lunch and Learn online. So just so everyone's aware, ReSourceYYC is a co-working community in Calgary, and this is one of our events to encourage learning and networking between our members and the community. And today our presenter is Marin McCue, who is a small Calgary business owner, and she owns Dopamine. So she has a focus on embodiment and awareness. Marin?
Great, thank you, Rosemary. I'm very honored to be here. And as I said before we hit record, I just am obsessed with the stuff that we're going to talk about and that I'm going to present today, and just get really lit up with any opportunity to share it and to practice my delivery and articulation in it, because it can seem somewhat complex at times, but depending on the wording and the order that it's delivered, it actually can be quite valuable and impactful right from the get-go. So that's always my goal, is to offer value and impact even in one conversation. So as Rosemary said, I focus on awareness and embodiment, and I do that through teaching meditation and working with people one-on-one and in workshops and small teams to understand mental health and how the mind and body work. My main focus is on breath and the nervous system, mainly because I discovered through my own experience of severe mental health issues for over 20 years, that as soon as I had language to understand my nervous system, it changed my relationship with the different things I was experiencing. I was able to separate myself from, a depressive state or an elated state or a ruminating thought, or anything that I had been experiencing for years. I learned how to separate myself from it so I could see it and understand that it's actually manifesting because of different physiological changes in my body. And so I'm not broken, nothing's wrong with me. This is actually quite human to go through the roller coaster, and we often just make it worse when we react to our reactions. And so again, when you understand how the nervous system works, it makes it easy to just notice the reaction and be with it, instead of resisting it or adding fuel to the fire by making it wrong, making it bad, being angry at it or avoiding it. That when we really learn how to turn towards what we're feeling, no matter what it is, and just be in awe of it or show it compassion, to soften around the tension or the stimulation, to create space around it, that things just start to relax and we start to see ourselves a little bit more clearly. And it's changed my life to be able to do that. I'm a much happier person. I have more energy. I make good choices in general because I want to, and not because I feel like I have to or I'm forcing myself to do it. It's something that has completely turned my life in a different direction. And because of that, I'm increasingly more passionate about not only continuing to learn and grow, but to share as well. Because from my own experience of how dark and heavy and disparaging and uncomfortable life can be, and then to be on the other side of like bliss and joy, and even to embrace pain and to lean into discomfort, I just want everyone to be able to experience that and know that it's possible. And so that's why I do what I do. So I know for today's session, we've got Rosemary and Jillian joining us. And I do want to hear from both of you if you feel comfortable with this. You always have permission to say no thanks if you don't want to share, or if you feel like you would be overriding your nervous system and forcing yourself to do something that you actually feel your body saying no to. Just keep that in mind. And if you feel comfortable with sharing, what I'm curious to hear from you is what you notice in your body when you're having a stress response. And know that that could be sensation. It could be a thought pattern that arises. It could be a lack of sensation. It could be the speed at which your thoughts move or your heart rate. It could be so many different things. So I'm not looking for a specific answer. I just would invite you to take a moment, and even if you don't share, this is something that you can really just sit with on your own first. You're welcome to type it into the chat, or you can unmute yourself in a few moments to give a word or a couple sentences of what you noticed. So as long as this feels safe in your body in this moment, you know, your screen is blank and no one can see you, to take a few moments to close your eyes if that feels okay. You can keep them open if closing your eyes really activates you. But it's just getting really curious, as maybe you're feeling it in your body right now simply because I'm asking you to share and be vulnerable. Or you might need to recall a time recently that you just felt that activated feeling of your body moving into fight or flight, or a time in your life when you were in a chronic state of stress. And as long as it feels okay to turn towards it and just hold that state with curiosity for a few moments, and just get curious as to what you notice in your body. Or as if you're watching a movie of yourself in a state in the recent past, and you're watching yourself having a reaction. And you're seeing how your breath changes, or how your body moves or doesn't move, or what happens to your face. Or you might see yourself acting out a coping mechanism, and really just watching the mannerisms and the posture of your body. So rather than focusing on the habits or the things we do to cope, like, what do you notice in your body? So I'm just going to give you a minute here to be in that experience, knowing that you can come out of it anytime it actually just feels overwhelming to the point where you're like, oh, I'm in it now and it doesn't feel good. And if it feels okay to put it in the chat of a word or what you felt, or again, you can unmute yourself and put words to it. And I'm just going to hold space for 1 minute. No expectation either way. If neither of you share in 1 minute, I'm just going to move on, and that's totally okay, allowing you to have your experience.
I'm here.
Hey, Jillian. Mm-hmm. 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 All right. Well, we're going to move into a little presentation that I prepared for you guys today. See if I can move this into present. Oh, there we go. All right. So at any point, because I have the screen share on and I've moved the boxes out of the way, if you have a question or you want to share something, I would just ask you to unmute yourself and voice it. I love keeping things informal. I don't mind if I'm in the middle of a sentence and you need me to go back to something I said previously, or you have a question. That actually supports me in the flow of it, and you're all going to remember this more clearly when it's in a discourse of conversation as well. So again, no pressure at all. If you want to just sit back and receive, I am all about that as well. And again, if you have questions, then we will go that route as well. So breath and mindset. I think one of the first things I want to say about this is that our mind and body are intricately connected. And when they're not, when there's disconnection of any kind, things just don't work very well. You know, if you're incoherent in your mind, you're going to be incoherent in your life. If your brain's not working very well, your life's not going to work very well. And your breath is an intricate part of that as well. Your breath changes based on your environment, your activity, your thoughts, your stress level, what you just ate, what you haven't eaten. It all can be manifested in the breath. And one of the interesting things about the breath is that while it's happening automatically, it's just reacting to what it's said, what you're thinking, how you're feeling. You also have control of your breath. And so the more we can build awareness to notice our body, which is the reason why I wanted to ask that question in the beginning of really taking a few moments to feel into what's my pattern? What do I notice when the body is activated? Because as soon as you're really clear on what that is for you, then you have access to, in the moment when it starts happening, there are certain things you can do physiologically to actually buffer the stress response, to stop it, to push the brakes, you know, especially when it's not appropriate. There are times, of course, when that stress response is appropriate, and we don't want to get in the way of that. It can save our life. But we're overly stimulated and we're overactive throughout our day, and our body thinks we're in danger when we're not. And while that doesn't necessarily need to be a negative thing, it's really not. It's great to feel that energy and that activation. But the problem is that when we get stuck in a state that's not appropriate, or we get stuck in a state so that even when we move into a new environment and we find safety, but our body still thinks we're in danger, then our whole system, again, is acting incoherently. If I'm sitting here relaxed in my room and I'm, you know, as safe as I could be, but I've built a pattern of over-breathing or being out of my body, not connected to my body, then all of the chemicals and signals of danger are flooding my body even while I cognitively know that I'm safe. So while the brain and the body are intricately connected, they don't speak the same language. The body speaks in chemicals and emotions and feelings, and while the brain can speak in words, you know, parts of it at least. Right? So it just makes a really interesting relationship where we can't just talk our way into a new way of feeling and being. You know, that's part of it, but it's so much more intricate than that. The body is so much more powerful. And so as soon as you just move into a calm breath, then your body starts to access the state of feeling calm, and the chemical makeup starts to change. And then you actually have access to changing your thoughts versus forcing your thoughts in a new direction. See if I can make this move to the next slide. There we go. Well, a little too far. Okay. Yeah, so this might be something that some of you will be familiar with. It's, you know, what is it that we really are trying to create when it comes to developing new habits or personal development in general? Generally, it's, you know, trying to look at our loops of reactive habits and saying, this isn't serving me. This isn't working for me anymore. I want to do something different. I want to feel differently. I want to show up differently. I want to make new choices. I want this relationship I have to grow and prosper instead of falling in the same loops over and over and over again. So on the left side of the screen here, you see that stimulus, that feeling, something happened, and the reaction to it are overlapped. It's like, this happened and I just snapped. You know, he looked at me sideways and I just lost it. Or, you know, I saw those potato chips on the counter and I finished the bag. You know, the examples can go on. It's really just about that feeling of I don't have control. As soon as this one trigger happens, I just move into my pattern of reaction. So a way of understanding this is the limbic hijack. It's the limbic is the emotional, the chemical brain. It's instant gratification. It wants It wants to get rid of a discrepancy now. Right? It wants to find comfort now. It wants to feel good now. It wants to find safety now. And what generally the body thinks is safe is just what's familiar and what has kept you alive. You're alive right now, so every habit you have, your body technically sees it as a good thing. Even if cognitively, you can say, this habit is not serving me. I don't like it anymore. I don't want this anymore. The fact that it's a habit, it means that there are neural pathways that are built into your brain and body that are like super highways. And your body loves efficiency. And so you're just going to keep going down that route because it's efficient. It conserves energy. It's kept you alive in some way, somehow. So on the other side of the screen, we see, well, wouldn't it be great if we had that stimulus and then there was a moment of, oh, I can feel this happening. Oh, I can feel that stimulus, that activation in my nervous system starting to take flight. Oh, I can feel myself starting to vacate my body. I'm like pulling away, leaning away. I can feel my breath start to go really shallow and slow. Or on the other side, it could be, my shoulders just lifted up. I am gritting my teeth. I can see myself, I can visualize myself playing out this reaction that I'm used to, but I'm not doing it. I'm seeing it. And so I'm not being it. And then we get that opportunity where we can regulate ourselves. We found ourselves in that activated state. We feel our pattern happening, but because we turn towards it and we soften and we get curious, we connect with our breath, our body knows we're safe, and now we have access to our whole brain. And I can remember, oh, right, I wanted to practice compassion. Oh, right, I wanted to ask questions to get more clear versus reacting and assuming that this person is an asshole. Right? Whatever it is, we get that moment where we pause and then we remember, oh yeah, I'm working on this. Oh yeah, this is how I want to show up. This is what I'm practicing. Oh yeah, these are the steps I want to put into place so that I can start doing something different than what I've done over and over and over again. So what you can see in between these two black circles is an arrow down to breath, movement, and eyes / focus. So what this is pointing to is that these are three things we instantly have access to that can shift our state instantly. So when you're feeling that stimulus reaction and you notice your breath automatically changes to match the internal environment, it's trying to match what's appropriately happening throughout the entire system. So if you notice that, and then you change the rhythm of your breath, suddenly your body is being fed something different. And we're going to get into some breath techniques, but we're just going to walk through this first, okay? So you change your breath rhythm. You're doing it consciously. You're showing your body, I am safe. I wouldn't move into my body and manipulate my breath, slow it down, or maybe even amp it up if I'm feeling like I'm dissociating. I wouldn't do that if I'm in danger. So right away, your body starts recognizing, oh, okay, I'm safe. I can actually land a little bit here. And then maybe you bring in a little bit of movement, right? You might notice like, oh, okay, my shoulders really lift up and get tense when I'm this activated. So I'm just going to see what I can do as I move my breath. Maybe roll my shoulders, rock my neck side to side, do some rib circles. Right, or on the other end, if I feel like I've been vacating my body, I amp up my breath. And then maybe my movement is, initially it might be like, oh, I just need to feel the ground. So I move into a child's pose or tabletop or fetal position, anything that just makes me feel safe. And then eventually I might need to stand up and do some jumping jacks, or, you know, you're changing your physiology by taking control. And the last piece here is your eyes, what you focus on, because your eyes are literally a part of your brain. They're two pieces of your brain that have been squeezed out through your skull. They're part of your central nervous system. And they're also parts of you that react automatically based on what your physiology is doing. So when you move into an activated state, your eyes actually start to focus in. As neuroscientist Andrew Huberman says, I love this analogy. He says it turns into portrait mode, like what we use on our phone when it's focusing on one thing and everything else blurs. Right? And it's a survival response. It's, I need to be hyper aware of what's causing me danger. So whether it's your eyes are focused in or your mind is focused in on one thought or one possibility that I ruminate on, it's actually a beautiful thing. It's your survival mechanism. Your body's trying to focus in, hone in on what it is perceiving as danger, right? So we don't want to get mad or blame any of these natural reactions. It's actually be in awe of it. Like, wow, look what my body's doing to protect me. And I'm not going to react to these. I'm going to hold them and meet them and watch them and be in awe of them, because that releases the emotional charge. So you can actually play with your eyes at that point, where maybe you turn your eyes towards something in the room and you move into that portrait mode of focus in. You notice your breath. And then you expand out, as Andrew Huberman says, into panoramic mode. And if you toggle your eyes from portrait to panoramic a few times, again, your body knows, I wouldn't do this if I were in danger. It starts to regulate your system. So it was cutting out a little bit, but overall you could still, like, were you catching the gist of it?
Oh yeah, yep.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's move into activity. And this is a mindfulness activity just to support that continued development of separating the higher self, the one who witnesses, from all the things that you can notice and pay attention to. And an important aspect of this is knowing that we separate so that we can see there's a difference, but we also want to knowing that these things are intricately connected and we don't want to stay separated. It's just so that you can recognize that when a thought or a state or a feeling is overwhelming you, it's not serving you, that you can actually step outside of it and look at it and hold it and potentially even treat it like it's a young hurt child that needs love and attention and nurturing, and you as the higher self gets to do that. And at the exact same time, you're acknowledging that all of these different parts are me. I can separate and see them, and the other side of the whole truth is that it's all me. Okay? So we'll only do this for about 5 minutes. There's no right or wrong in this experience. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's just really noticing what this is like for you. There will be some aspects of this that potentially you'll get no problem, like, well, this is familiar, I can do this. And there might be some other things where it feels unfamiliar and confusing. And that can sometimes get in the way of just being compassionate and curious. And that's okay. It's all a practice. So the first step is to find comfort. And that could be leaning into the back of your chair, getting your feet on the ground, or maybe even removing yourself from the position you're in and laying on the ground. So just taking these first few moments here to answer that question of what would feel really comfortable in my body right now. And if it feels safe and comfortable to close your eyes, you can go ahead and do that. And if that activates you or feels overwhelming, then you can gaze around the room or practice that portrait to panoramic mode with your eyes. And then become aware of your breath. And know that it's okay to take your time here. If you're still in the stage of finding comfort, that's great. Take your time. And if you find that your awareness or attention is scattered or short-lived on any one thing you focus on, to just notice that and be patient. And know that every time you call your awareness back in on something you choose, it's like doing a bicep curl in the gym. It gets easier as that direction gets stronger. So just notice your breath. Breathing through your nose, if that's possible for you. Feeling the expansion of your inhale and the soft release of your exhale. And as if you can hold the hand of your breath so that you never quite lose connection with it. Allow your awareness to shift, to notice your thoughts. You might notice the pace of your thoughts, or that, meta awareness of thinking about thoughts and noticing how you're thinking about thoughts. Or it might be a recurring, familiar thought. Just noticing that. And noticing, when you have a different or certain feelings in your body that arise, or a sound in your space, and how that shifts your thoughts. Is there space between each thought, or is it just one thought flows into the next? And for about a minute here, sitting with your palms open on your lap, your left hand representing the past, and your right hand representing the future. And as you just hold space, curiously watching your thoughts, when you notice it's a thought about the past, squeeze your left fist and whisper to yourself as you label that thought as past. And when you notice you're projecting into the future, squeeze your right fist and label that as you whisper future. If you notice you're thinking about your thinking, or about ideas that are neither past nor future, just label that as thinking. And if you notice a sensation in your body, you could say feeling, or the descriptive of what it is you're feeling: tingles, warmth, joy, comfort. You could label an emotion if it's clear. I'm experiencing frustration, annoyance, distraction. And in moments of spaciousness, just be. And every once in a while, just notice, are you still connected, holding the hand of your breath? As you notice and label all these different ways of thinking, perceiving, or being. Just another few moments here. And within your next few breaths, release the task of labeling or trying to focus on your thoughts. Just let your body breathe. It might feel good to move your body around a little bit, lifting and lowering and rolling your shoulders, or doing a forward fold. I'm a big fan of shaking the body, whether it's just a gentle shimmy or standing up and getting your whole body to shake out, especially if that was really activating for you. This is one of the primal ways that we can actually release the stored up stress in our body, is shake it. Give it a good shake. So before I move on, do either of you have a question or anything you want to share from that experience? No pressure. All right, so I just have a little bit more for you. And I'm avoiding sharing my screen, so I don't know if you lose me when I close this down, but just a couple more pages here. So there's three main takeaways that I believe are important for understanding how to befriend your nervous system. And two of them we've spoken about in depth now, and the third one I'll bring up now. So the first is the difference between bottom up, which is the automatic happenings in your body of how your breath just changes when you're having a physiological reaction. Your eyes just automatically start to focus in on what potentially is perceived as dangerous. The whole body just takes over. It's a survival mechanism. It's wonderful. It's so wise. And then this other piece to it of, well, we also have top-down ability. We have the ability to consciously control and manipulate and shift our entire physiology simply through the rhythm of our breath, the way we move our body, the way we move our eyes. It gives us access to that space between the stimulus and the deliberate response that we want to put into practice. And the second piece is self-compassion. That when we can really let go of the idea that we should have it figured out by now, or that this should be easy, or you know, any shame around any habits or coping mechanisms we have, you know, with that idea of like, oh, I know better, or I should know better. You know, and we can let go of that and recognize that this is human nature, and that every single pattern and habit and reaction you currently have is trying to protect you. Even when it appears as maladaptive, as getting in the way, even when you cognitively know this is not serving me anymore, this is not who I want to be, this is not how I want to show up. With self-compassion, we can recognize that these are not malicious habits or reactions, that they are trying to protect you. And that when we actually access that self-compassion, that's how we soften, and that's when we actually start to create change. So it points us towards the paradox of change, that before we can actually create what we desire, what we want more of, we first need to accept and love and show compassion to where we are, that we need to do both. And the third step for befriending your nervous system is adapting and practicing the growth mindset. It's very similar to self-compassion. We can be so hard on ourselves. And growth mindset is the concept that this needs to be intrinsic. It's not about extrinsically proving that we're good enough or proving our value. It's about the intrinsic improving, that I'm constantly in this process of growth and development, and there's no end goal that is it. You know, my happiness does not await over there. It's about the practice, and it's about rewarding my effort. And as well as that, it's this recognition that when we say things like, I'm on the right path, I'm doing a good job, I'm doing the best that I can, that this actually buffers the stress response. It boosts dopamine into the system, which allows us to actually keep going. So when we see or feel the agitation in the process of like discomfort of learning something new, how uncomfortable that can be, especially at certain points in the process of learning and growing and trying new things, it can get really confusing, agitating, stressful. And with the growth mindset, we want to acknowledge that those moments are actually a sign that change is happening. Because again, the brain loves efficiency, and it wants to keep doing what it's done in the past. So when you start redirecting energy and building new neural pathways, you are exerting energy towards building a new superhighway when you have another superhighway leading you somewhere else. And the body's going to resist that. And it's uncomfortable. It's like you're pruning away old pathways to build new ones. That takes energy, that takes time, and that's stress in the system. So it's such a simple shift you can make in your mindset when you feel that agitation in the process to go, oh, this means it's working. I'm on the right path. So I had a few things in here as well about the window of tolerance and the polyvagal theory, but the gist of it really is so much of what I've already talked about, of this, the importance of developing self-compassion so that we can turn towards the state we're in, we can turn towards our reaction and hold it and love it. And that actually expands our window of tolerance. It increases our stress threshold so we don't flip our lid so quick. We can actually handle more, we can be with it, and we can regulate ourselves instead of getting stuck in these chronic tension or chronic dissociated states. So the last thing I want to walk through are just 3 simple breath techniques that you can do on a daily basis. There are so many different ways to breathe. This is where it can start to get really complex and confusing, actually. This is what confused me for years, of trying to figure out, well, what's the right way to breathe? There's so many different practices. And so what I'll tell you is that, actually through the work of James Nestor, his book, Breathe, or Breath, what he landed on is that the ideal rhythm throughout the day is actually 5.5 seconds. So it's 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out, and that equates to 5.5 breaths per minute. And ideally, we want around 5.5 liters of air per minute. Now, of course, liters of air is a little bit harder to gauge, but basically what I can tell you is that most people are breathing 14 or more liters of air. And when this is an unconscious habit of over breathing, your system's amped up all the time, and so it takes it's almost impossible to say, okay, I need to calm down or I need to sit and relax. The body's not familiar with that. It's like you're fighting against yourself. And it's a similar issue when we move into, well, what if I'm a chronic underbreather? Like when we have a dissociating pattern of shutting down, our body tends to underbreathe. It still is a stress response. It still is showing that your body is not in danger. It's not safe to be in my body. It's not safe to be here. Do I trust life? Do I trust this moment? That's still a stress response. So chronic unconscious underbreathing or chronic unconscious overbreathing have, they're very similar in that sense, that it's just your body thinks that it's not safe. And over time, that's gonna wreak havoc on the body. So what we wanna do is conscious breathing. Even if you are consciously underbreathing or consciously overbreathing, vastly different effects and impact on the body because you're with it, you're conscious. You're showing your body, like, I'm actually activating this state. I'm in control of it, and I can stop it when I want. So that instead of feeling like we're on a roller coaster ride all day, it's like, no, I'm controlling this roller coaster, and I'm going to move myself up and down so that I can actually experience more of this even keel state throughout the day. And when I do get activated or deactivated, I notice it and I regulate myself instead of my whole body moving into a survival mechanism and coping, and then it's a lot harder to move out of it. So, breath for upregulating. So when we think about the experience of dissociating, numbing out, I'm not in my body, I'm not here, I'm pulling away, what we need to do is activate our system. We actually need to get our sympathetic nervous system online and get some fire and energy into our body. So one of the simplest ways you can do this is a breath of fire. So breath of fire is Kapalabhati breath in yoga. It's an effortful exhale, and then the inhale just happens. It's expansive, your body just takes the inhale in, and then we exhale, we pull it out. We pull the belly button back, it forces the air out. So I'm breathing in a quick pattern, much quicker, much more forceful than I would if I was trying to cultivate calm, but I'm doing this because I'm trying to invigorate my system. Okay, so again, there's lots of different ways you can do this, but I'm speaking to this one because I feel like this one is more accessible. There's lots of videos on YouTube about it. You go to any yoga class, you're gonna have a teacher who can tell you about Kapalabhati. So let's just do this for about 30 seconds, where you're sitting up tall, creating space, lengthening your spine, relaxing your shoulders, and relaxing your belly. This is a big key in all breath work, is that we wanna be able to engage and release the muscles of the belly instead of them being in chronic bracing or not engaged whatsoever. Right? So we're learning how to engage and release through different patterns for different reasons. So again, we'll go for about 30 seconds. You can choose your pace. You can go really quick. You can go really slow. You could do a mix and match and see how it feels. Okay? So when you're ready, we inhale to expand and then pull it back. Three, two, one. Deep inhale. Hold at the top. And then exhale, let it go. So the inhale is connected to the sympathetic nervous system. So also in general, if you hold your breath at the top of your inhale, it's gonna activate you as well. So it's a great thing to do, especially if you're trying to upregulate yourself, is after doing that breath, hold at the top, you're conscious, you're relaxing around the fullness. So again, you're showing your body, yeah, I'm activating myself, but I'm present, I'm safe. Like, it's good to have energy. It's good to be in my body. It's good to be alive. So a breath for down regulating. So we are in fight or flight. I've been activated and I need to calm my system down. So the simplest one I will share with you is a physiological sigh. See if I can open this up again. Can you guys still hear me?
We can hear you, but your
Okay,
picture's
good.
frozen and we don't see
Yeah.
anything else.
Oh, I'm sure it's frozen in a great position. Yeah, it's kind of closed down for me, but as long as you can still hear me, we can keep going just a couple minutes now. Okay, so when we do a conscious physiological sigh or a hum on the exhale, we open the blood vessels and the connections in the body. It vibrates through the body. And because we're doing it on the exhale as a conscious choice, it's down regulating because the exhale is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. It's about down regulating. So again, focusing on the exhale is going to down regulate the system. So adding in that physiological sigh or a hum just supports the process and also boosts nitric oxide in the body, specifically with the hum, with your mouth closed, humming and feeling that vibration. And the more you can lengthen your exhale, so it's just this long, drawn out exhale. So in general, the inhale is just a regular old inhale, and then the exhale is 2 seconds longer or double the length of the inhale or more, that really just shifts the system down. So we'll just do this 3 times, and I'll invite you to play with the hum and the physiological sigh. Okay, and do one of those twice. Obviously, we're going to do it 3 times to just notice what that feels like. And in general, I like to stick with the number 3 when I'm doing one of these breaths to upregulate or downregulate, because if you're doing it consciously, that's generally all it really takes. Okay, so when we're just trying to catch ourselves in the moment, create some space, show our body we're safe in that moment before we completely flip our lid, just 3 breaths. That's all it takes. Okay, so finding that position of comfort again. And on your next inhale, it's just a regular old inhale, feel yourself expand, and then hum or sigh. And then often a little bit of a shake can feel really good while you sigh or hum or after, because again, when we move into an activated state, a lot of energy has just surged into the body to prepare for battle or to protect yourself or to run. And while breathing in a different way helps shift, sometimes we also need to dissipate some of that energy so it doesn't stay in the body as tension. So a little bit of a shake, a little bit of moving around, just again also shows the body like, okay, I can let go of what just surged inside of me. So that's pretty much it. We're at about noon now, and I hope this recording is still usable in some way. And I know this is the first time recording as well, Rosemary, so I'm happy to be the test pilot for this. But I'm also hoping that Rosemary and Jillian, that you both got something valuable and impactful from this session, and that you're going to walk away feeling a little more clear on how your nervous system works and what you can do to show yourself compassion and regulate yourself. So thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Marin. That was very informative.
Good.
Just a little relaxation as well.
Yay. Awesome.
Thank you both for hosting this session.
Thank you for participating.
Pleasure. Yeah. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Rosemary. I appreciate you both.
And hopefully, maybe you can join us in the future for some more of our ReSourceYYC Lunch and Learns.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much. And thanks for anyone who's listening. You put up with a lot. Kudos to you.